and welcome to Adaptation, the vlog dedicated to film adaptations and the original material they're based on. I'm Kendall Bryant, and you may have heard of me from Adaptation, the podcast. If that is the case, then congratulations, because you have just leveled up from listener to viewer. Good job, you. Whether you're new or you are a longtime listener, welcome. On the podcast, we talk a lot about adaptations, good, bad, new, old, everything in between. And so for our first video, we decided to talk about books that haven't been made into films, but that we would literally pay money to see. Getting right into it, our first choice is from Jennifer, and she has recommended The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. It is an adaptation of a grim fairy tale, which is quite appropriate for current trends. This is the only, I don't have the book, so this is okay. Anyways, if you don't know it, it is basically the story of a princess who has to travel to a different country because she's going to marry a prince. But on the way, her lady-in-waiting and her guards betray her and send her running off, and the lady-in-waiting pretends to be the princess, while the real princess has to stay in hiding and work as a goose girl. Thus the title. Now, we think that this would make a really good film, like I said, because it fits with the public audience and the fairy tale trends at the moment, but also because it's very thoughtful in terms of gender roles. It has strong male and female characters, even though the main character and the main villain are both female. It's also very balanced in terms of relationship dynamics. It has platonic and romantic relationships between both genders. It has 3 sequel books, so if the first one does well, then there's an opportunity for sequel films. Our second choice comes from Jessica, and she would like to see The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson become a film, which I have to take some credit for because I definitely introduced Jessica to Maureen Johnson's books. The story is about Rory, who is an American girl who goes to London for boarding school, but as soon as she gets there, there's a series of murders that are mimicking Jack the Ripper. Rory gets caught up in the investigation when she is the only person to have seen the suspect. Then, of course, she becomes the suspect's next target. Now, we think this book should be a film because it is very creepy, and we think it would make a really great ghostly thriller. Also, it has the historical tie-in and the mystery with the Jack the Ripper murders. And this sounds strange after saying those last 2 things, but it is funny as hell, and if you have any doubt of that, go and look at Maureen Johnson's Twitter because she is hilarious, and the book is just as hilarious as she is. So the third book on the list is my choice, yay! And I buried it in the middle so I didn't seem biased, but if there's one book on this list that you should read, it's Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. I love this book so much. It's written in 2 perspectives, 2 characters, both named Will Grayson. One's written by John Green, one by David Levithan, and it alternates chapters. Also, probably one of my favorite things about this book is the relatableness of the characters. Will Grayson, number 1, is trying to get through high school by going unnoticed, but he has a best friend that is really noticeable. He doesn't really blend. And Will Grayson, number 2, gets his heart broken early in the story, and he's dealing with being gay in high school, so there's that kind of not fitting in or feeling like you don't fit in running through it. Also, I think it focuses mostly on friendships, even though there's romantic undertones, and I really enjoy when books do that. Not to be biased or anything, but I think that this book is the one that's most likely to be made into a film. First of all, there's all this hype right now about John Green's The Fault in Our Stars and casting going on for that. Also, David Levithan wrote Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist with Rachel Cohn, and that became a movie in 2008, so we've already got a little experience there. And also, number 1 with a bullet, big fat bullet, no one in their right mind would pass up a chance to see Tiny Cooper's autobiographical musical, Tiny Dancer, on screen. Number 4 on our list is Ryan's pick. He picked Path of Destruction by Drew Karpyshyn. It's the first in the Star Wars Darth Bane trilogy, but it really has nothing to do with that because it takes place 1,000 years before the films that we know. And it starts with a war between the Sith and the Jedi. It also explains the rule of 2 that developed within the Sith and how that happened. You know, the one master to have the power and one apprentice to crave the power. So that could be a really interesting plot point. We also think this would be a good movie because it would fill in the holes in the current Star Wars films, and it would be in a familiar universe, but it would be stuff that we hadn't seen before, which would make it really interesting. Also, it deals in shades of gray, which, if you have listened to our podcast, you know that we love. Not the naughty kinds of shades of gray, but the kind where you're rooting for the bad guy and you know you shouldn't, but you kind of have to, and it makes you feel a little dirty, and that's probably why it's called Shades of Grey. I just got that. But regardless of that, I mean, how can you not root for the Sith? They're super badass. Last but not least, Nicole would like to see Across the Universe by Beth Rivas be a movie, which has nothing to do with this, but I needed a visual aid. So that's already a movie. Don't worry about that. Across the Universe is a futuristic science fiction novel in which the main character, Amy, and her parents volunteer for Project Arkship, which means they're going to be cryogenically frozen for 300 years, taken to a new planet to create a new civilization. However, Amy wakes up 50 years ahead of schedule, and she's surrounded by unfamiliar people in an unfamiliar place, and she's not sure who she can trust. Now, why would this make a great movie? Nicole described it as Avatar meets Star Trek meets Sleeping Beauty, which, to be honest, sounds amazing to me. Plus, the atmosphere, the technology on the ship could look absolutely stunning on film. And the two main characters have just the right amount of romance in their relationship. But most of all, it's the first in a series. And I don't know if you've noticed from this list, but we are suckers for a series. I guess we just like the fact that if the first one does well, there could be more and more and more. Now it's your turn. What do you think of our list, and what are some book-to-movie adaptations that you would like to see get made? Tell us all about it in the comments, and if you like what we had to say, like this video and subscribe to our channel because there will be a lot more videos to come. Also, in the info box, there will be a link to our podcast on iTunes and all of our other social networking sites, our Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and our blog, adaptationpodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep hope alive that your favorite book will be turned into a decently adapted film.